Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft 365 Community Conference Sponsor Webinar Series. I'm Ella Fernandez, Head of Connections at BTechly, and today we're joined by our sponsor, Sennheiser. In today's session, we'll be exploring designing for hybrid success, Sennheiser certified room solutions for every space. But before we get started, just a few quick reminders. To join the live Q&A, you'll need to register for the webinar. If you haven't registered yet, simply scan the QR code on the screen or visit btechly.com, select today's session, and enter your business email address. Once registered, our team will add you to the calendar invite, which includes a link to join the Q&A chat at the end of the session. Please note that the Q&A is not live streamed. Join us for the Microsoft 365 Community Conference 2027. Register by scanning the QR code on the screen or head to nextgen365events.com. Use the discount code 2026 attendee, all caps attendee, 2026 attendee, to save $500 off on your registration by June 15th. And of course, please like, subscribe, follow both BTechly and the Microsoft 365 Community Conference. Without further ado, let's enjoy today's learning session.
Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Oden. I'm a technical application engineer here at Sennheiser, specializing in business communication division. So we're talking about how to design hybrid success for certified rooms of every space. And this is where me and my team live on a daily basis, right? So if you've got questions about it, hit me up in the Q&A. Feel free to reach out to me. Let's get into it. So the things that we're going to be discussing today, we're going to start basically with what Sennheiser is, who we are, and how we approach the problems of hybrid spaces. And we'll talk about some of the best practices and some of the archetypes that we've developed within the hybrid working and learning environments, and how the Sennheiser solutions, our products specifically, tag into that, and how you should use those things. Right. So, who is Sennheiser? We're an audio company. We've been making microphones since 1945. They're all made either in our factory in Hanover or in our factory in Romania. So they're all TAA compliant devices. On the left here, you'll see the original farmhouse where Fritz Sennheiser started the company in 1945. And on the right, you'll see our current campus. Spoiler alert, they're about 1,000 feet apart. The company didn't move much. They've stayed there in the small town outside of Hanover that they've been in from the beginning. And it's just a great place to be. So as we look at collaboration and learning and how we define these roles, we of course approach it from the sound aspect, right? We know that sound is one of the most important things in any meeting, because if you can't be heard, you can't be understood, and the meeting may not have happened at all, right? So I like to say that audio without video is radio, and video without audio went out of fashion about 100 years ago. So we know that your microphone choices aren't always the first thing you jump on when you're planning or troubleshooting your hybrid space, but it's definitely one of the most important, and it's becoming more and more important as time has gone on. So why are we talking about hybrid work and learning, and specifically how it's different from remote work and remote learning? Right. And that aspect is that within hybrid work, there is a space on one end of the call with many people, right? As well as those people who are joining remotely. So you're actually solving two problems at once. You not only need to build out that excellent experience on the far end of the call, both in terms of quality of speech and quality of video and quality of service, but also within the space where the local meeting is happening, you've got to solve for those problems as well. So what we're working on today is obviously things that are certified specifically for those choices. quick look at how this has been growing in the last years. Obviously, in 2020, we saw a huge bump in people wanting to work remotely and needing to work remotely. And as people have come back into the office, that's when the hybrid experience started becoming a thing. When everyone's at home, we just deal with remote work, and that's fine. But once we've got a contingent back in the office space, we can start seeing that those hybrid work solutions started overcoming the remote work pretty aggressively. So that's why we're here to solve it. So as we look at this new era, we know that 50% of leaders in their company are investing in these technical spaces, right? The spaces that the meeting rooms that are designed to support both the local group and those people far off. And we know that the video usage has increased significantly since pre-pandemic times. Like even as recently as a few years ago, everyone would join and their camera would be off, but more and more the expectation has become is you need to see them as well as hear them, right? You can't just join the meeting with your camera off and everyone expect that you're okay. They all assume you're in your pajamas, right? Um, and finally, 60% of on-site meetings are involving hybrid participants, right? I mean, I know sitting here at my work from home situation, I'm joining remote calls all day long. And in a lot of them, there are people on the far end of the call. There's several of them in a room. And I can always tell when they're in a nice pre-engineered meeting space or if they're all just huddled around somebody's laptop at their desk, right? And it affects my end of the call as well as theirs. So that's why it's important. So something that we've done at Sennheiser in terms of our market research and our building of tools to help you guys, the clients, solve the problems that you're dealing with, is we've developed these archetypes for the various rooms and developed solutions for what those might look like. And immediately we can divide them into a few categories that we can then break down into subcategories. Like, so we've got our small, our medium, our large, and our extra large spaces, and we have different product and system integrations that are uniquely certified for each of those, and those certifications recognized by teams as well. So let's look at the small spaces, right? And these can be divided between a huddle room and an actual meeting space. And the differences may seem subtle, but the problems that we're trying to solve are unique, right? So in a huddle space, that can be just one person. Maybe this is a room where it's designed for them to quietly answer emails, quietly study, do things just by themselves with maybe a single partner, but they will need that ability to join a meeting from the room, right? And in that space, you can assume there's no technology. They'll need microphones, they'll need cameras, they'll need speakers to be in this place. And the same with a small meeting room, right? Maybe this is, 4 to 7 people, but it's still a space where you're not expecting there to be a lot of latent technology in the room. So you need a solution that brings all of those things in all at once. And then we get into our medium room spaces. And again, these are places where maybe, a single media bar is enough to get it done, but maybe we need to extend that out, like with the extended media space, where the room has gotten just a little bit bigger. Maybe there's a couple more people. Maybe we need to take those initial all-in-one solutions and expand them out. And we have solutions to do that. And finally, in this medium room is the tricky one, and that's the flex space. That's a space where every time you use it, it can be configured differently. So you need solutions that have that kind of flexibility to deal with whatever the room throws at them at any given moment. And then we get into our large rooms. And in this area, this is where we are differentiating the spaces in terms of we've crossed outside the ability for the system to be potentially an all-in-one build. We're getting into those bespoke rooms where Sennheiser is partnering with the QSys counterparts and the Crestron counterparts and Extron counterparts, these third-party systems, to be able to build out a larger ecosystem around the room. And we've got lots of solutions to those. These are places where we do some of our best work, especially the visible room, which is a completely different problem to solve. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's little. It brings the challenges of the large room and the challenges of the flex space, right? How much is this room going to have to change from given use to given use? And then finally, the extra large rooms. These are where we are really having to cover a lot of square footage. In this case, we've got it set up as lecture halls, which simplify it in that you always know where the front is, but they're not always like this. Sometimes they're flat floor. And we do have solutions for very, very large rooms in excess of 300 people. I've seen bigger. I've seen them go really big, right? So as we talk about these different types of rooms and what the market research says, what types of rooms are people working on, right? So we see a pretty significant chunk of people in being the product guys or the AV managers who are trying to solve these problems in their facilities. About 63 of them are dealing with small rooms. We've got 92 of them dealing with the medium spaces, 68 with the large spaces, and 38% of the projects that you work on are those extra large spaces. So it's still a significant chunk of the number of projects that are being dealt with on a regular basis. But that medium room is clearly where most of us live, right? So we'll focus on that here. So let's talk about the Sennheiser TeamConnect solutions specifically. TeamConnect is a group of products that Sennheiser has developed to solve these distance and hybrid learning problems, right? We've gotten together with the guys who are doing the projects, guys who are doing the designs. What problems are you trying to solve in the field, and how can Sennheiser approach these with the best solutions possible? And today we're going to talk specifically about the TeamConnect bars and the TeamConnect ceiling microphones. Some of you guys have seen the TCC2. It's been our flagship product for a long time. But since then, we've introduced the TeamConnect medium and the two TeamConnect bars. And as we look at the bars, right, we have our small bar and our medium bar. Spoiler alert, that kind of aligns with where their certification, their use cases tend to work. The connectivity differences between them, I find, are where you're going to spend most of your time, depending on what kind of peripherals you want to attach to it. The Bar S has a single network port that merges Control and Dante, but it can be split via the VLAN tagging if you need that to be done. It has a single HDMI output attached to it so that you can extend your desktop up to a screen to service the room. Again, that huddle space, it has no technology, and this gives you a single connection point over USB-C for your bring your own device situation to be able to drive the whole space. It has two microphones in its array. It's beamforming, just like the ceiling mic, and we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. And it's got a pair of speakers for nice full sound. The Bar Medium has twice those speakers, has 30% more microphones, right? So it's a solution where not only does it fill a larger space, but even if you have a smaller space that you want a more robust audio experience on the near end, that I would steer you toward the M on that. It's got two network ports. Again, if you want to split Control and Dante out, or you can run them off a single cable if you'd like. And it has two of those HDMI connection ports on it. So it can run two screens off it, again, off that single USB-C connection. Again, it's designed for mid-sized rooms, and the S is designed for small rooms. And as we look at the TeamConnect ceiling microphones, of course, on the right, we've got the TCC2. Again, we're super proud of it. There's over 100,000 of them out in the field. It's been a really, really fantastic product to be a part of. Its radius, if it's set up in a ceiling somewhere between 8 and 10 feet high, is going to be a 16-foot radius of coverage. So obviously it's intended for the larger spaces. There are three Ethernet ports on it. One is for PoE control, and the other two are your Dante primary and secondary ports. And they're always separated out within hardware. Control on one line, Dante on one line. So it's always going to be a two cable hookup proposition, which makes it really easy for the clients who want to keep the Control and the Dante on separate networks, right? It's got 28 of the KE10 capsules in it. These are the same capsules that you see in some of our shotgun microphones. So it's very high quality audio starting at the capsule and all points west, right? As we look at the TeamConnect ceiling medium, this was a more recent addition to the family. It's got some really neat solutions that it brings to the party. The first thing you'll notice is that it's the roundest microphone on the market, even slightly rounder than some of our competition, perhaps. But we do make a square faceplate available for it. So if you decide it's the right equipment for the job, but you want it to drop in your ceiling tiles, we have an accessory for that. Its spec coverage is an 11-foot radius. I've seen it used at further distances, but we're going to stick with spec today. So that puts it in the mid-size to large size spaces, right? And it is certified within certain solutions in both of those categories. It only has 2 Ethernet ports on it, and this is an interesting differentiation between it and its big brother. It is capable of single cable hookup. So off a single cable, you can have your PoE to the device, your control of the device, and your Dante of the device. And then that second port can be used to daisy chain to a completely second and then third ceiling microphone. So it'll pass PoE, it'll pass control, it'll pass Dante. All 3 devices will report independently into either Dante controller or control cockpit. But we do give you the ability within the management software to split those out. So if you do want your Dante and your control on separate VLANs, you can do that physically within the hardware as an option. So let's talk about the ceiling mics in terms of their beamforming design and how we're slicing that pie, right? Some of our competitors philosophically, when you hang their microphone, the first thing you have to do is you tell it where to listen. You define its listening areas around the room. But with us, you hang it, you unmute it, it's instantly listening 360 degrees by 180 degrees, right? It covers the whole space with a 30-degree beam in the case of the TCC2 or a 33-degree beam in the case of the TCCM. And that beam is constantly looking for one thing. It only cares about one thing. What's the loudest thing in the room? And it reevaluates this decision every 4 milliseconds. So if we look at our illustration here, we can see the gentleman at the table. He stands up and walks to the marker board. That one beam is going to follow him the whole way because, as luck would have it, the human body doesn't move very far in 4 milliseconds. So the microphone has no problem following you as you walk and talk. But more than that, let's assume that the configuration of this room changes completely from one meeting to the next. It's one of those flex spaces. Well, the microphone doesn't care if a table has moved from its predefined listening area because it doesn't have one. It's going to swing that microphone over to wherever the talker is happening at any given point. So there's a lot of flexibility baked into it. Now, you do have the ability to tell the microphone what parts of the room to ignore. You can build out exclusion zones if you would like, and there are instances in classrooms where that's super helpful, instances in zoning where you can take advantage of that. But right out of the box, once you hang it and unmute it, it's listening to the entire space. So that means much less technical know-how needed for whoever's hanging it. The person hanging the microphone doesn't have to make, hardcore decisions about the functionality of the room in that moment. So it's much easier for end user install. It's a great little device. So let's talk about our solutions where we take our products and we cross-reference them with these room archetypes that we've been talking about earlier. First, we take our TeamConnect Bar S and we pair it with that small huddle room, right? And it is team certified for this space in a BYOD situation. You get the bar hooked up, you hook it up to the television in the space, single USB-C connection to whatever laptop you bring, and you're off to the races in a certified manner, right? Same with the small meeting room. The Bar S is still certified within that space. So again, a simple USB-C extender to the table will make your room certified in a BYOD situation. But if you wanted to hook it up to an MTR, it would look something like this, right? And with this situation, again, we are still a certified solution for Microsoft Teams rooms. And again, this is what the bring your own meeting situation would look like. We're assuming that this screen is being connected to that bar over HDMI, and that would just allow you through your single point to be able to drive the whole meeting. Same situation with a medium-sized meeting room. In this case, we are expecting the bar to handle all of the camera functions, all of the speaker functions, all of the microphone functions, right? Off that single connection point in a BYOD or BYOM situation. Again, if you look at the illustration, you'll see that we are running two screens in here because the bar M can run both screens off of its HDMI outs off that single USB-C. So no one has to be an expert. They sit down, they plug in their bar, and their screens are all detected natively at a Windows level, and they just become extensions of the desktop. Again, if you wanted to use a certified Teams room, a Microsoft Teams room, this is what that hookup would look like. It's easy peasy. But let's assume that we're getting into a larger situation. Let's assume that we're using a Lenovo and we wanted to know that this is a truly certified situation. We've developed a lot of really great reference materials. Both our Alliance team and our Insights team have worked with various partners, and we've exchanged a lot of gear. Here, you take a bar and try to break it. You give us your MTR, we'll try to break it. And once we have reached an equilibrium where we are confident everything is playing together, we send the whole thing off to Microsoft for certification, right? So within these guides, and we'll talk about several with lots of different manufacturers, not just Lenovo, you can be assured that you're walking into a certified situation if you stick with these deals. And as you look at the guide, you'll see what the partnership benefits are. You'll see what the system components are entailed, and you will see what the BOM looks like. What devices do you need? What are coming from Sennheiser? What are coming from Lenovo? What are OFE? What pieces do you need to provide outside of that? And what's more, we show you exactly what it would take to set it up, right? So you can, if you were an end user or higher ed, and you're doing all of this within your own facility, within your own team, we try to give you the roadmap to take two different manufacturers and put them together in a certified fashion. So as we look at the extended meeting room, we talked about this earlier, where maybe it's just large enough that we want to give that TeamConnect bar a little support out in the room. And in this case, we're using TeamConnect Medium. Now, you'll remember that I said that the TeamConnect bar has a Dante input and the Medium has a Dante output. Well, you've got the ability to just make a simple route there and bring that ceiling microphone into the meeting through the bar. The bar's got an onboard mixer that will manage that for you and just bring that audio into the meeting. So simply by hanging it, providing PoE to the device, and giving them a network connection, even if it's on a ad hoc closed VLAN, you build it up on an island, it doesn't matter. The entire thing can be done very simply with just a few cables, right? Now, as we go into our medium space, a medium flex space, here we are with our TeamConnect Ceiling Medium again, taking full advantage of the beamforming microphone over the room, but knowing that that microphone doesn't provide the speakers, the camera, the rest of the infrastructure needed. That's where we're going to partner with, again, those third-party systems like the Extrons and the QSYSs. And for those, of course, we've built out more reference designs, okay? And each of these tested and tried both at a partnership level and certified by teams. So as we get into an even larger space, the divisible rooms, the classrooms, we have solutions built out for these that we can walk you through. So let's look at, here it is with Sennheiser and Extron. Let's look at what that would look like. We see all of our partner benefits, we see our descriptions, we see our bill of materials, and we see what that connectivity would look like. We need the speakers, we need the microphone, we need the cameras. we can walk you through that entire thing and make sure that you're set up with a proper team certified solution at the end of the day. Obviously, we have lots of partners that we work with, and just like those few that we've talked about, where we can see where we've seen the the design guides, we've got lots that we've worked with, and again, done the gear exchange, done the advanced testing, and all of these can be found if you go to the Sennheiser website, go to any of the products that we've talked about today, either the bar or the ceiling mic, and just scroll down till you see the third party designs and the alliance partnerships, and then you'll be able to find those design guides there. All right, so as we get into the extra large spaces, now we're really seeing where that TCC2 shines, right? Remember, I said that the TCC-M has a 33-degree beam, and the TCC2 has a 30-degree beam, right? So now it can reach further out, and it can do so with more isolation. So you're going to hear less of the acoustics of the space. And a tool that we've made available for you guys is the Sennheiser Room Planner. It's cheap as free. It's on the internet. And I'm going to jump over briefly and just show you what that looks like right now. When you go to the Room Planner, you're going to be greeted by this. And you've got the ability to either select one of our pre-assigned solutions or create your own solution. If you check your own solution or a pre-designed solution, you can drop through any of these archetypes that we've talked about today and then drop in a device and be able to see how it would look in the room. So as we connect the space, it's immediately going to tell us, hey, we recommend the 2 ceiling microphones for a team certified solution. But if you wanted to build your own, you've got the ability to upload a room plan. Here is one that I have for just such an occasion. If I had been closer to it, here we go. Now that you've seen my entire design tree, enjoy that. So now we're able to see this space, and this is the space that I'm in right now. This is just a 2D drawing that I've made of the space and brought in. The first thing I'm able to do is I'm able to define the room scale. So now as I'm planning, I'm going to do a little better job than that. Now, as I'm planning, I can know that this design has some basis in reality. I know that my room is 20 feet wide, and I can be confident that whatever comes from this, I know fits the room. So then as I come in here, I've got the ability to say, hey, this room could use a TC bar M right here at this position where I've got the TV, and it facilitates the room pretty well. But maybe I want to treat this like one of those extended spaces and drop a TCCM in the middle, just so I have that extra confidence in my ability to be heard anywhere in the room. Obviously, it's overkill for a home office, but for whatever your product is, this is a great way to really decide whether or not a Sennheiser solution is right for what you need in the world today. And of course, once you're done, you've got the ability to print this off and save the entire thing, complete with, the article numbers and the different devices that you've brought into the deal. And with that, it's going to wrap up what I've prepared. I'd love to jump into the Q&A now for those of you who are in the chat. And this is where I look to Ellie for help.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Greg. It was such an outstanding and a cool presentation. So to everyone joining us on the live stream, thank you so much for being here. And we'll be wrapping it up shortly. Register for the 2027 Microsoft 365 Community Conference by scanning the code on your screen. Use the discount code 2026 attendee to save $500 off on your registration, or head to nextgen365events.com by June 15th to get that special discount. Now, if you'd like to participate in the live Q&A with Greg, please be sure that you join using the link in your calendar invite. Thank you again for being here. Bye for now.